Hi, Waxela. Welcome to the Why Not Meditate podcast. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, Masako. So good to be here with you. I'm really grateful that you invited me to have this conversation with you today.
Yes, well, we met through mutual friends here locally in Sarasota, Florida, and I knew that you had a lot of wisdom. You have a lot of knowledge about spirituality in general and also practices that you have practiced over the course of I don't know how many years. But can you share with us your story, who you are, where your journey started?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as far as my meditation journey, it started, I would say, as a child, maybe even an infant, but really before that, in past life. I think we come in with some level of knowledge of who we've been. And I think I did carry forward a lot of that with me. And I have past life memory. I'm just going to jump right into the past life woo woo stuff because that's kind of who I am. And I do have a really profound memory of a lifetime where I was a monk, I think in the Himalayas. And what I really remember about that was these long journeying meditations that I would do that would last for days, 3 days, maybe more sometimes, where my body was so still and I wasn't even breathing, barely. I mean, just barely breathing, but to an outside onlooker, I wouldn't even look like I was breathing. And other monks would take care of my body, and I would go basically traveling the universe and picking up information and visiting other worlds and things like that, or different aspects of our world. So I really think I came in with this understanding, this knowledge or comprehension of the importance of meditation. And so I was tuned into that from a very young age. And I remember as a child, my favorite thing to do, I had the little bicycle with the little basket on it and the tassels, and I would ride. I called it the swamp. It was really just a marshy area near my home. And I would go there to the swamp. And I wanted to catch frogs, and frogs were very fast. The kind that we had there, they would be very difficult. If I just walked up, they'd see me long before I saw them and they'd hop away. So my technique, it was actually a profound meditation technique, but I didn't know that. I was just trying to see the frogs back then. I would bring my conscious awareness all the way down to my ankles, basically like ankle and below level to the tiny, tiny world. It was like the miniature world that exists below our ankles. And I would become one with my environment. I would tune my consciousness in to that tiny world. And, I didn't feel then like an observer of it. I felt like I was part of it. I became part of the consciousness of that tiny world that existed in the marsh. And then I could suddenly start to see everything. I would see all of this life. It was like cities actively going on down below what we're normally conscious of. And then I'd be able to see the frogs, 3, 5, 10, all over the place, and they wouldn't see me. And I would adjust my breathing. It was really a type of shape shifting, I think. And I was shifting into the land, and that was kind of like the fairy world. And I can remember so clearly, even when I was a child and I would do this, it was quite thrilling to shift into a different realm of consciousness like that. And I could spend hours and hours there doing that. And then I would catch the frogs and play with them and release them later. It was just there's a beautiful childhood memory. And in that same area, there were these beautiful weeping willow trees, huge weeping willow trees. So their branches would come all the way down to the ground. So when you go through the branches, the energy there was different. It was like a fort, but like a play area inside each one of them. And I would go and sit if I ever felt sad or there was something on my heart or I just felt discontent in some way. I could sit with my back up against the willow trees or a willow tree, and I would just feel everything balance, and I would feel so much better. So I feel like these are all types of meditation that, many of us as children do this naturally. I was left to my own devices and I just went and did these things. And I think children will do that if they're not stuck in a house all day long. And I had the great fortune growing up in rural Iowa and I played outside. That's what I did, especially all summer long, even in the winter. I loved being outside. I loved being on the earth. And that is what taught me or reminded me, I think we kind of know already, right? How to meditate and how to change my consciousness, how to become one with the land, how to see and experience in a different way. So that was my childhood. Then I traveled with a shaman starting in my early 20s, early to mid 20s. And I was practicing meditation then consciously at that time and really went deep, like really deep into learning greater meditation with him. And then in 2014, I started going to Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I had done breath work before that, but not a ton and not regularly. And that's when I really started doing regular breath work, daily breath work, and opening up that side of things. And you know how expansive that work can be. And so I felt like I was just on a rocket ship after that and opening up. And it's been a journey. I think I've done 13 advanced courses now.
Whoa.
And and I'm excited to do another one because there's nothing like it, you know, not that I'm here to sell Dr. Joe tickets, but I do really enjoy that work.
Oh, me
And
too.
yeah, I know you do. So that's the kind of it in a nutshell. That's been my journey.
Wow. That's an extensive journey. It started from your childhood through your 20s and then ongoing. What do you think the reason is that you are so attracted to or pulled into this realm, this practice? What is the purpose behind that is pulling you to all of these experiences and knowledge?
Hmm. I love that question. And of course, it's multifaceted. On one hand, I think it has been my life's purpose because I teach meditation, I teach ascension, I teach breath work and all these things. So, as part of my life purpose, I needed to go through those stages. There was definitely a period of time where I was meditating so much, and I'm also very clairvoyant and intuitive, as so many of us are. And I would tune in with my guides. I have a lot of interaction with my guides and channel. I do some channeling and things like that of guides and energies. So I think that that was part of my training. And there was a point in time where I used my sort of deep, deep meditation as an escape from this
Mm,
world, sort of to
mm,
get away from the difficulties and the drama and the pain and all of the things and sometimes the boredom of this world. And there was a period of time in my life where I was meditating for more than 3 hours per day, sometimes 4 or 5, you know, but I don't really do that anymore because what I learned over time is the purpose is not to get away from the world. The purpose is to be more present and more balanced in this world while we're here, because
mm,
we're not here for that long. In the grand scheme of things, it's not that long.
mm,
And to learn to use meditation to make myself more mindful, more present, more aware, more conscious while I'm here. And then also to enjoy just the exploration and the journeying and open up more of what's available for us to perceive when we're operating in consciousness rather than just the 3D.
mm. Yeah, you mentioned ascension, guiding people through the journey of ascension. What does that mean for some of us who might not be familiar with the term and process?
Yeah. Okay, so ascension in the realm of spirituality, ascension is commonly thought of as going up and out of the body, ascending, right? Moving up. It means move to go up. So a lot of people have this conception of ascension as leaving the body or like the rapture and where people are coming out of their bodies and ascending into heaven. While that is I suppose, a type of ascension, that's not what I refer to when I'm talking about ascension. What I teach, it's called embodied ascension, or I call it that. And this is where, like I said before, the goal is to be more present in our lives and in our bodies, not to get away from this life. As so many, I guess, spiritual people, they want kind of to get away because it's been painful and we're empathic and we feel so much and it can be difficult to be in this body. But embodied ascension is bringing your energy in the body up, like ascending the energy of your body and the spirit within your body, amplifying that, activating that more so that we become this integrated spiritual being. And the physical body is part of that. It's not something to cast away or try and get away from. It's our tool. It's a very wonderful divine technology that is our body, and to be able to bring our energy up within the body actually brings greater health and vitality to the body. So when we are embodied, we're raising our frequency. Embodied ascension, raising your frequency from within, from the heart, and activating the heart center and feeling more at home and at peace and balanced within this lifetime. And that for me has been, especially when I was younger, that was a big challenge. I didn't feel comfortable here. I didn't feel at home in my body. And that's something I've learned over time. Well, that's kind of the goal, is to be able to really make this body home while we're here and use this technology to the best of our ability and be present with ourselves and with the people in our lives and with the planet that we live on, so that we can really have the greatest experience of life while we're
Mm.
here.
What would be the greatest experience of life that you believe in? You know, let's say life filled with love or joy, or you have some calling or purpose, or just being grounded in the everyday, day to day operation of life, but still you have something bigger than everyday life. What is your vision of the best experience of this life?
Well, I think it's all of those things that you just said. And of course, it'll be different for everyone. For me, it used to be, it changes over time, right? It
Mm.
used to be really passionately offering my gifts and sharing with my following and sharing my channeling and my breath work and my meditations and all of these things. And I felt so fulfilled by assisting and supporting others on their journey. And I still do. And that's also evolved or changed over time. I guess less of a hustler. I'm less in the hustle now. Like I went into this exploration of freedom over the last couple of years. And what is freedom in my life? And I started to realize, wow, I'm spending so much of my time and energy on other people and on coaching and on all the things that I was doing, that I didn't really have a lot of energy for myself and my personal life at the end of the day. And then I saw, okay, well, why am I doing that? You know, it's always an exploration. Why? And it's because I felt like that was my purpose and my mission, and I was passionate about it. But then looking at it, well, what if I found a greater balance? And my body was actually starting to request that. Too many hours in front of a screen was taking a toll. So I started to pull back from that work and really explore, well, what is freedom to me? You know, it's an
Yeah.
individual journey. What would make my life, what would make me feel more free? And then dissecting like all of the layers. Well, I'm doing this because of that. And I feel like I'm following a lot of things because I'm supposed to, or I've been told to, or I just for some reason believed that was the right thing to do. And just started questioning all of that, you know, letting things sort of blow up and then settle and see what I was left with. And that had me, interestingly, like, this is an interesting way to say it, but it had me need to do less, not
Mm.
more. I used to do a personal podcast and a podcast with someone else every week, so 2 a week. That took up, like, 3 or 4 of my days, right? When you put all that together, I'd step back from that and, like, that's too much screen time for
Mm.
me. That's too much. For some people, it's not. For some people, they do it every day. Great. For me, it was too much. And why am I doing it? Well, I've put a lot out there. Do I need the feedback from my following? Is that why? Why would I keep doing this? Do I feel like I have to? And just kept asking myself these questions.
Mm.
And I got to this point where it's like, well, I don't actually feel like I have to do anything anymore
Yeah.
other than what feels good and aligned to me. But, that's not where I started. It's been a journey to get
Yeah.
to this place. So I would say purpose wise, my purpose has become following my soul's calling, even when that is do nothing.
Mm.
And your real question was, how do I have, I think, the greatest experience of life?
Mhm.
I think for me, it's following my heart and my intuition and my integrated being here. My body has needs. It's getting this self care, going for massage, doing saunas, getting therapies, doing
Yeah.
things that help my body, dancing. I love to dance. Things like that, and exercise and being in nature, and then having time for my family and spending time with my kids and my mom, and having this social life and having good friendships. Those things now, I mean, not that they weren't important before, but I think now the importance of those things has become more than it used to be. And it's become more important than what I produce work wise.
Mm.
And so this exploration has led me there. Now, if I hadn't kind of put everything I had into my work for 5 years and more, actually a lot more than that, but I really did this type of work for 5 years intensely, like every day. If I hadn't done that, then maybe I wouldn't be at the place I'm at today. So
Mm.
it's a perfect journey of exploration and just seeing what is more. And I do love to journey and go into other worlds and explore consciousness and other dimensions of reality and all of those things. Those are fun. It's kind of now like travel for me. Travel's fun, but I
Mm.
don't spend all my time traveling. Some people do, great, and meditation and consciousness exploration is fun. I used to spend so much of my time doing that. Now I feel like I don't have to do that as much. I don't need to do that all the time. I have a morning meditation and an evening meditation. They might be 20 minutes or 30 minutes, not 3 hours each.
Yeah.
It's just the journey of where I'm at now. I feel integrated enough that that's enough for me where I am
Mm.
right now. That could change when in the
Yeah.
future. Who knows?
I love the fact that you mentioned about doing less and asking yourself, what is freedom for me? What feels good to me? When we are so conditioned, programmed to produce, do the work, do something, right? Even spiritual work could become the work and the job almost,
Mhm.
like something that you have to prove to yourself or to other people to make you feel validated or worthy.
Mhm.
And it kind of comes from the same area that when we felt that we're not good enough just for being who we are, we had to behave in certain ways and we have to produce certain things. I think it's a really important point that you are just hitting. And that's something I personally have been working toward. I grew up in Japan, and being productive, being disciplined was the thing that I was really conditioned throughout my childhood. Like, you have to get good grades, you have to work diligently. And I don't disregard that. I think it's really important. And at the same time, I start putting early on in my childhood my outcome, my performance as my worth. That's how my parents see me. That's how my teachers see me. That's how my peers see me too. Like, oh, she's smart or she's doing this, she's good at this. It's been a journey for me to pull myself back from that and starting to see the innate worthiness that I have as who I am just being outside of what I'm doing.
Mhm. Beautiful. Yeah. And that really is what meditation can give us,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
It's amazing that you shared that. And yeah, I feel like for me, it's similar but different way. an entrepreneur raised by entrepreneurs, raised by entrepreneurs. So I always felt like, well, I got to go bigger and do more and produce more. Entrepreneurs work all around the clock. My dad was always working. So that just felt like what I was supposed to do. And most of the time I loved it. I was a workaholic. But when I took that away, what happens is when you're producing so much and you're valuing productivity, at the end of the day, I would look at my day and say, oh, that was a good day. I produced A, B, C, D, E, right? But on the days that I didn't do anything or produce anything, well, then what? Then where was my personal self-value? Unless I valued just personal time and self-care, then I can say, oh, today I took time out for myself and I value that. Like you said, unlearning that programming from childhood and that we've programmed ourselves as, like
Yeah.
I'm good enough if I do this and that. Instead of that, like I'm good enough because I am, just because I'm here and I am. And let's explore what our value is outside of all of those things that we do or produce.
Mhm.
That's a beautiful thing that meditation gives us when we do it regularly. And you also mentioned about the spirituality. I'm sure you've been in a lot of spiritual circles, as have I. Even the Dr. Joe work, where, are you doing it every day? Are you keeping up with it? Are you doing all the things and the breath work? And it's like, okay, well, what if I'm not?
Yeah.
Am I still worthy of the
Yeah.
work? Am I still a spiritual person?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and if not, do I need to be? Like, is that something I need? If I have to do it a certain way or a certain amount to fit in? For
Yeah.
some people, if you're in training, yeah. But, at some point in life, we have to look at, okay, well, is that creating more freedom for you or less? And if
Mhm.
it's creating less freedom and making you feel bound or constricted in some way, then maybe you need to edit what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it could become performance based, like all
Yes.
the mindfulness practices or spiritual practices could become another measurement that you're using to measure your self-worth. And it's a tricky situation because you believe in the practices, so you want to do more, but at the same time, you could attach your personal value to it and then becomes a little tricky.
I think it all comes back to non-attachment and not judging yourself, non-judgment.
Yeah.
Let's just let ourselves do what feels right and
Mhm.
natural and good. And of course, there are times when we have to push ourselves or we wouldn't do anything. So there's value in that as well.
Mhm.
And we go through phases. And there are
Yeah.
times in the journey where it's appropriate to do a lot and practice a lot and meditate more. And then there are times where it's not appropriate or it's not as necessary anymore. And we just get to be intuitive and let ourselves have the ebb and flow and
Mhm.
appreciate that for what it is
Yeah.
rather than judging ourselves. Dr. Joe always talks about tenacity, and as do I. I think tenacity and curiosity are the most important traits in any ascension work. If you keep at it and you keep up your practice and you keep being curious, you're going to keep expanding
Yeah.
in your consciousness. And that's going to change how you practice. That's going to change how you are and who you're being in the world. Also, not get too stuck in a rut or stuck in, I have to do it this way. Or if I miss my morning meditation, oh no, I won't have a good day. All those things can obstruct our freedom.
Yeah. When you say expanding consciousness, what does that mean? How do we experience it? How have you experienced, like, oh my gosh, my consciousness has just expanded and
Mm.
now I am different? Can you walk us through maybe the process that you have experienced?
Yeah. And again, I think this is going to be unique for everybody. Everybody's going to have their own journey of consciousness, right? I think when we're first waking up as a spiritual being, it's sort of like going from looking at the world as 3D and that's all there is. I mean, for many people, I was always more like kind of in between worlds, I guess. But I've over time had my awakening experiences where maybe I had a profound consciousness shift and I'm like, oh, wow, I've suddenly realized or have an awareness of something that I didn't have before. And that can come spontaneously. It can come through meditation, can come from even as a child in the swamp looking for frogs, tuning my consciousness in. And I don't remember the first time I did that, but I do remember like this is an actual consciousness shift that I would practice. It's shape-shifting in a sense. And I would be part of that tiny world, that miniature world. It'll land below our feet. And it's something I learned. It's a technique I learned to do, but it expanded me because then I'm like, well, what else can I do this with? And then being visited by guides throughout my life, starting when I was a child, they would show me things, or I would have experiences that were sort of beyond my understanding at the time, especially when I was a child. And so I would want to know more, understand more, learn more. And I was always looking for the path to find greater awareness. I always knew from the time I was a child that there's more going on than most people know. And there's certainly more going on than I know, but that most people aren't even aware that there's more going on. So I think from a very young age, I just had this desire to experience more than what was, I guess, the norm. I was clairvoyant. I would see things that other people didn't see. I was aware of that. My mom said I had imaginary friends, but she was not sure they were all imaginary. And she was right about that. She's like, yeah, I was a bunch of imaginary friends around you that I couldn't see, but I think you could. So I just felt like, and I still feel like consciousness expansion, it's like the willingness to look beyond what we know as reality and then be curious about it. Like, well, what else is there? And oh, there's a light being here, or I can feel an energy in my heart. What does that mean? How do I expand into that? How do I feel more? And for me, it's always about feeling more into it. So, as an empath, I am a feeler as well. So when I experience something and I feel it, I think as a child, my go-to would be, well, I'm going to back away from that, especially at people that I thought were sketchy. I'm not going to interact with those people because I don't know. And then, well, what if there are other people that can expand you? And that's been a really fun exploration to enter into expanding. And that's why I love the group meditations. There's nothing like meditating with 1,500 people. Wow. The consciousness that's available through that is so expansive. But just to lean in and experience more of it, either what you're feeling or seeing, or it could be thought, like leaning into a thought and allowing yourself to explore that, contemplate that, opening up the mind to allow yourself to perceive more than what's obvious or more than what's 3D in front of you. There's so much more. For me, that's consciousness expansion. And there's a spectrum of it from, if down here is 3D and over here is 5D or higher, whatever, higher consciousness, we're always somewhere on that line. And, in meditation, we're a lot closer to this side of the expanded arena than when we're doing, whatever our taxes. We're going to be down in the 3D world. And all are necessary. It's not that one's better than the other. It's in one day, how many arenas can we live in? And how can we allow that? For me, freedom is allowing myself to experience what's in front of me or what is in that moment. Sometimes it is my taxes. Sometimes it's exploring other dimensions of reality, depending on where I'm at in that moment. And so it's very freeing for me to be in a lifestyle now where I'm not in a 9-to-5 job. I work when and how I want to versus having to work at certain times. And that feels really good. It feels really free for me.
Yeah. I want to ask you about making a living, making a livelihood part into the equation of feeling free, feeling freedom, and living your purpose at the same time. Because I think a lot of us are kind of waking up to the fact that we've been living in this matrix and doing 9-to-5 or however, building business. But we feel like we have to do this in order to make a living. And doing something that I enjoy doing or love doing will not be able to be enough to support me. How did you shift that mindset, or did you ever have the mindset? You were raised by entrepreneurs, so you saw them working all the time. So you probably tied the productivity and, let's say, freedom, financial freedom. How did you break out of it and started seeing, wait, there is maybe other ways?
Mhm. Oh, I love this. I love this question and this line of thinking because it's so important because we're so programmed, that we have to produce our labor. I mean, we're
Yeah.
programmed that our physical labor is what produces income so that
Mhm.
we can buy what we need to live our lives.
Yeah.
That is a very strong program, I think, in our whole world, right? Most of the world operates that way. And I did operate that way for a long time. And I felt at the time like I love my work. I love it. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. Working 80 hours a week, great. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. Now I don't feel that way anymore. But I mean, sometimes I do if I'm in a project that I'm loving. But I did go through that journey of, and this really started a couple of years ago for me when I started diving into cryptocurrency and cryptocurrency platforms, and which I still have a passion for and I still do work with. I started extracting myself from that intense work life and started working fewer hours but making more money and
Mhm.
not trading my time for money anymore. And as I was doing that, I got this whole new vision of like, oh, wow, like I can actually make a lot more money in a lot less time with a lot less physical effort doing something different. Then over the last few years, the cryptocurrency goes up and down, right? It's up and it's down, it's up and it's down. And I'll look at my portfolio every day, it could be different, but it's just numbers on a screen. And, of course, there's this tendency to look at the numbers on the screen, whether it's your cryptocurrency or your bank account or, your taxes or whatever. You're looking at the numbers and you're saying, that's my value or that's my
Yeah.
financial value in the world is this number. And the fun thing for me that's been about the cryptocurrency fluctuation, it's so volatile, it's always fluctuating, is I got to this point where I'm like, it's just numbers on a screen. It goes up, it goes down. It has nothing to do with my value. The numbers, whether it's my cryptocurrency or my bank account or anything, the numbers on the screen are just numbers on a screen. Whether it's high and I'm excited or it's low and I'm like, oh no, that's just an emotion that I've attached to it. And this has been a big challenge for me to get to this. So, what I've learned, what's real is that I am valuable and I am worthy of being well supported in this world while I'm here, regardless of what I do.
Yeah.
And that's a big mental hurdle for a lot of people,
Yeah.
for myself included, because I mean, it was the journey that I took that I got to this point. I'm like, it doesn't matter what the numbers say, I will be supported. And then that mindset translates to the universe, to God, to the energy to bring me support.
Mm.
And I've always been supported. Yeah, some months I haven't felt as abundant as other months, but I've been supported the whole time. I got to this point where I claimed that experience of abundance for myself, despite or regardless of the numbers. Whether the numbers are high or low on the screen no longer matters for my self-worth and my self-value. My value of myself will always be high.
Mm.
And I allow this reality to support that mindset,
Mm.
regardless and unattached to what I do.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. It's fun. Once I arrived there, I was no longer willing to compromise that.
Mm. Mhm.
And it's a journey every day. Like, where's my mind? I mean, I never feel like I'm not supported. I do have moments where things go down, things fail, And like when something fails, where does my mind go? Is like, oh no, what am I going to do? No, it's like, oh, okay, I tried that. That didn't
Mm.
work. Try something else. It's fine
Yeah.
or not.
that's the journey I've been going through on my own as well. I was working 9 to 5 most of my life, and then 3.5 years ago, I got laid off because I didn't want to comply with the mandates at the law firm I was working at. And but I didn't have a plan B at that time. I just knew that was clear message that universe was giving me that, hey, you don't belong here.
Mhm.
It was like a divine intervention. So I thought, okay, I don't know what to do exactly from here on, but this is, a path that is shown. So I should follow this, no matter, I don't know where it's leading. So since then, speaking of feeling worthless, because I unconsciously attached my value to what I was doing for most of my life. And without that, without the title or the office or the outfit or the environment, external things, I no longer felt valuable, worthy. And I felt like everybody was judging me because of that, even though they had no intention or no interest of judging me. They had no clue who I was. But from there, rebuilding what is my value? Am I still valuable? Am I still worthy of experiencing this life? Am I still worthy of happiness and joy, even without what I used to define me as valuable? Um, it's being both challenging and rewarding journey. And meeting somebody like you who has gone through the journey before I did gives me a lot of encouragement.
Mm. First, I just want to acknowledge you for making that choice. What an intense and incredible choice. And you chose yourself over what the outside world was telling you you had to do.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people that didn't make that choice that wish that they had made that choice now. So, how beautiful that you listened to yourself. And I want to point out a mindset that you had in that was, I can't remember exactly how you said it, but that you saw it as an opportunity to move to the next thing, whatever that was, even though you didn't know yet, rather than as, a lot of people would view that as like a terrible thing that happened, a destructive thing in their life. Your mindset was already, well, this must be God's plan for me, or, the next thing is opening up for me and I just can't see it yet. And because you had that mindset, that's the way it went, right?
Yeah.
You made it go that way just by your way of being in the world. And you're choosing to follow that path and follow your higher awareness of, yes, this is the right direction for me to go. And I'm not going to compromise myself and my beliefs for something. Maybe I've outgrown this, or however that came down for you. And I'm sure you had moments of questioning, as we all
Yeah.
do in great times of change.
Yes.
But you did it. And that's so beautiful that you followed what you knew was right for you. And then it opened up into did you start the podcast after that? I
Right
guess.
after.
Yeah.
I never had an intention or desire to do a podcast, but it was something that I had the opportunity and I just decided to jump into it. By that time, I had been meditating for a few years and I found Dr. Joe's work and I wanted to share the message, share meditation as this great life-changing thing that everybody can benefit from. So I already knew the message I wanted to spread. I just did not know how or if I was really going to do it. But I didn't feel comfortable speaking in public or through a podcast in my second language. I had so much resistance, but something nudged me, something drove me to just do it messy. And as I took action, it became part of who I am. It built my confidence, it built my comfort level. And now I realized there were so many rewarding things that I did not see at the beginning of this podcasting journey that I am witnessing and experiencing. The same thing with breathwork facilitation. I never saw myself standing in front of a group of people and leading something. I was so uncomfortable doing it at first. When I first went through a meditation teacher training, that was 5, 6 years ago. We had to practice guiding the peers, like a small group, like 2, 3 people, and then you know them and then they know you. It's very safe space. Still, I felt so uncomfortable doing it. I never could imagine doing it in front of a room full of people. So it's been a step-by-step process for me to feeling uncomfortable, feeling not ready, but still putting it out there, setting the date for the event, and preparing for that. Once I announce it, I cannot take it back, so I have to prepare myself. There's a healthy amount of pressure and stress. But during the process of preparation, I learn, oh, I really like this. I really like to create and curate an experience, a breathwork journey. I like to put the playlist together to deliver a certain type of experience. And then once I lead one session, okay, I did this. I can do this. I'm getting the hang of it. So the last 3, 4 years of my life has been the exact process of that, whether that's podcasting or breathwork or coaching, any of the things that I never planned to do with my life.
I love that. And, you hit on something so true, and that's that uneasiness and uncomfortableness of doing the new thing that we didn't see ourselves as before. It's really like that you have to conceive of yourself as that person, that's standing in front of the room and be able to live into that in order to do it. And I can certainly say for myself, I always felt like I was a behind the scenes type of spiritual person. I did psychic readings and one-on-one sessions and energy work and channeling for people one-on-one for many, many, many years before I got this call to sort of step in front of the camera. And that might have been about 7 years ago now. But oh my gosh, when I did my first summit, so I'll do summit series where I interview like 25 different people and release them over a period of time. And when I did the first one called Alchemy of Ascension, I was terrified to put out my very first, it's like the intro. It's a 2-minute, just 2-minute video to introduce your summit. And I was addressing that I had been visited by otherworldly beings in that intro. And I'd never been public about that before. And I actually cried. I could not in the video, but I cried after. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm putting this out to the world for people to watch and see. What if they think I'm crazy? And then it turned out to be the most amazing production. And I got 10,000 followers on my email list from that. And I was like, wow, it's so well received and wonderful speakers. My very first one was such a success. It was so uncomfortable. But I did it anyway, and like you said, I had to pick a date and put out the invitations and then follow through. And I did have a coach at the time that was really helpful. But if I hadn't been willing to feel that discomfort, I never would have done it. And I also wrote a book around that same period of time. I remember writing the book wasn't a big deal. It was the sending it to the publisher. When I clicked that button to publish, I felt I felt like my energy dropped out of my body. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't take it back now. It's out there. It was just this feeling of, what have I done?
Yeah.
Like, people are going to think I'm nuts, but it didn't go that way. It was well received. And yeah, it's
often the case, right?
Yeah, we have to be willing to do the things that we're called to. But I think also there's discernment. There are the things that the world tells us we have to do. And sometimes those things are a fit and sometimes they're not. So then as we move on with life, we'll be confronted by that at some point. Like, is this really what you're supposed to be doing? Is this really what you're here to do? Is this really your higher calling? And there'll be that knock on the door. And then as you start to follow that, you're going to be challenged. You're going to be confronted. There will be opportunities to be uncomfortable. And it's kind of like, how willing are you to be uncomfortable? It doesn't stay uncomfortable, though. as we do it, right, then it feels really good. Like you said, you started doing your breath work and feeling amazing about it. Just like same for me in my work. That first time was really, really hard, but after that, I fell in love with it. And it's the journey. We just have to be willing to go with our hearts and do the uncomfortable thing, and then that becomes pleasurable.
Yeah. It's all the process.
Yeah, the process, the journey.
So, with the capacity that you're working right now, how can people work with you? What would be the best way for people to get to know you?
Yeah, okay, great. So my name is Waxéla Sananda. It's got a funny spelling, so maybe you can link. My website is wa-shay-la-sananda.com. And well, first of all, I have a lot of information. It's an extensive website, but I do have a place there where you can register. I think it says join me, and you can register for my email list. And that's really the best way to keep up with what I'm up to. I send out regular messages. It used to be 2 a week. Now it's more like 2 a month, sometimes a little more than that, but I don't over spam. And you can always get off the list if you want to. But this is where I share like the podcasts like this that I'm on and the summits that I speak on. And when I'm doing a big project or summit, I'll share that there. So that's really the best way to find me. Just jump in my email list. I also have a YouTube channel, which is my name as well, Waxéla Sananda, and it's WxEla for those that are listening. That's a great place to just kind of see what I've put out there. A lot of my podcasts are there. I podcast the Alchemy of Ascension, and that's on all the typical places like Spotify. So there are lots of ways to find my work for free. I have tons of free output that you can tune into. And if you like that, on my website, I have a lot of different like meditations and breathwork courses. I even do a breathwork training and even a teacher training for people that love the breathwork that I offer on my website. I also have technologies that I represent. I magnetically attract really cool spiritual technologies. So I share about those there too. And I share about my life both through my YouTube channel and my email list. So if that is something anybody wants to know more about, you can just follow me there.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey, sharing your wisdom with us today.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I love what you're doing, Masako, and just sharing meditation and then all of the things around it that are naturally a part of that, like consciousness expansion and ascension is all available through meditation. So thank you for doing this great work in the world. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Ashayla.